And welcome back to the IWAR Network TUBECAST. I'm your host and NWL Commissioner, Alex G. And with me, as always, is IWAR Commissioner Matt Riley. How you doing tonight, Matt?
I am controversially excited.
So speaking of controversy, we have to talk about the IWA Ringside magazine cover and some of the quote-unquote heat that we received for it. So, Matt, if you want to go into that, the floor is yours.
Controversy. Oh, yeah. All right. So, as often happens, IWA will email me on the day of results. So what happens, I usually get a bunch of stuff. I get the pack with the files, which include, the roster, the results, etc. And then I'll get some other emails. If I'm running events, I often get emails from them like, oh, here's so-and-so also entering the tournament. Here's whatever's going on. So today I got one, and it was a reply back, because whenever you email the IWA, they usually send you a thank you back to kind of like a receipt. So I was still collecting entries, so, for this ladder match battle royal. So she sends me one, and it's 2 more wrestlers are entering the battle royal. Also, I just received this email, and I'm not sure what to do now because the IWA ringside is already printed and mailed out. Unhappy face. And what's funny, when I first saw this, I saw the typing, but the font is different. So if you will, picture like 14-point Arial, and then below it picture like 8-point Courier New. So when I saw it, it looked like a disclaimer, so I just kind of glanced and kept moving from there. Well, when I went through my emails again today, I noticed what it actually said. And what it actually said was, hello, I am writing in regards to the cover story on IWA magazine. I was honestly caught by surprise and couldn't believe it. Then I saw this disclaimer and became upset. The moment the handler used the name, quote, Silverback Jack with Mark Henry, the angle is racist. How do you think players who are actually African American feel about the name Silverback? Or that a white handler is using real social injustice issue to have racist characters? The IWA can do better than a disclaimer trying to explain away a racist angle. It was disheartening and disappointing. I was disheartened and disappointed, sorry. I hope the handler is encouraged to rethink the gimmick, and I hope the IWA will not tolerate racism in any form. Thank you. So I got this, and when I read it today, which is a couple days after, so poor IWA, Kim's probably sitting there by the email with the voodoo doll for me, put needles in it. I think that IWA has a bunch of like voodoo dolls, different players' names on it, and like noodle. So I, of course, once I got this, I talked to you, Alex, and I went to Andy and Ryan and said, hey, guys, so here's something interesting. So what I'm going to do is read first the response I sent to the IWA, and then we'll talk about it a little further. So I sent back my reply, and I said, for the concern of the cover, I would first say that the IWA game is based on a business that has sensationalized social issues to drive storylines for over 100 years. Some of the greatest feuds in the history of pro wrestling, like Roddy Piper versus Jimmy Snuka, or the Nation of Domination versus WWE, played off racial tensions. The Black Wrestlers Matter angle is a story based on the feeling that many black wrestlers are passed over for pushes because of a racist power structure. It is a polarizing angle that is played out well thanks to the writing of their manager and the other players in the CWL that have played off this angle. If someone has a problem with this angle and the wrestlers involved, they should probably contact their manager directly. I'll back up a little bit just so I can kind of give a preference if you're listening to the podcast and not aware. Perhaps you could slot the cover into these TubeCasts when we're doing it.
Yeah.
To give you a little kind of background, last year late, one of the players that was considering coming to the CWL said he had some ideas, and he talked to Andy, the commissioner, and he was talking to me about some of his ideas. And he had this idea for a stable called Black Wrestlers Matter. And I actually spoke to their manager earlier, and Rich actually kind of laid out where it all came from. And he was telling me, and I'm going to pull it up here because it's interesting where angles come from sometimes. Like we were talking earlier in our pre-show about characters that just evolve organically. They come out of nowhere, and it's like, oh, wow, okay. He was driving home, and he heard on the radio about Sandra Bland dying in custody for the police in Houston. And the report was, coming over and talking about it, and the church choirs doing, whatever. So then he, thought about the old Nation of Domination gimmick back in the, I guess you'd call it Attitude Era, which was Rocky Maivia, Ron Simmons, I'm going to forget, D'Lo Brown?
Kama.
I'm forgetting someone. I feel like I'm forgetting someone.
And Mark Henry.
And Mark Henry.
Yeah.
And they were a group of black wrestlers that kind of were saying, like, we're taking things back because you won't give it to us. Now, as we said in the pre-show, way back when Ron Simmons was the first African-American to win a world championship in wrestling, I didn't think it was a big thing because I always just figured, really? That long? But the point of this angle is that the wrestlers are being slighted and they're taking control of with their power. He watched, actually, when he got home, he watched some Black Lives Matter clips and was like, holy cow, So when he was, at the same time, he was transferring in some wrestlers from the TDL to the CWL, and it just happened to be the wrestlers that were Silverback Jack, Black Predator, and Orion Overstar. And for fun, little side note, Orion Overstar is the wrestler that he wrote in the Matt Mayhem League a couple years back that was the openly gay wrestler. So that's a whole other kettle of fish. But, he came in, and to his credit, Rich has proceeded to go on a tear and destroy a lot of the competition. So he's been doing a fantastic job with it. Now, the CWL, which is the Continental Wrestling League, is an advanced league in IWA terms. Like if the NWL is a rookie league, and there's a lot of leagues out there that are scrub leagues with nothing going on, and the BRL is a busy league, the IWL is a busy league, the LWL is a busy league, a lot going on, and the XPL or, etc., NBL. The CWL is sort of like the advanced Dungeons and Dragons of the IWA. The format is different, the structure is different, gameplay is a bit different. You send the commissioner your trash talk, and he wraps it all together. So when you get the bulletin, what you get for trash talk is like a Monday Night Raw episode that plays out.
Yeah.
So it's completely, every other league is, your trash talk is here, there, here, there, here, there. It's spotty. The CWL is of TV production. No surprise, Andy's got a background in theater and film. So this, as the background kind of there. So he's been doing really well. I mean, he talked to me a while ago about getting a cover. And I was like, oh, yeah, at some point. And the thing is, oftentimes he'll say, well, at some point. And you kind of wait for the right time to strike. Well, he just won the IWAR tag team titles with Black Wrestlers Matter. He's been on a tear. He's destroying competition. It's really a good time to do it. So I asked him to give me some pictures to work with. And he sent me the pictures he sent with the wrestlers' names, So that's what I went with for the cover. I gave him an example. I did a draft work, sent the draft to him, and he was like, dude, that's awesome. Let's go with it. I'm like, okay. I would say I had a bit of an idea. Something might be a little eyebrow raised. Because honestly, it's when you use a hot trigger topic right now, like Black Lives Matter, as a launching point for a gimmick and angle, yes, that can be a bit controversial. Someone who's more sensitive or not as used to this kind of atmosphere in wrestling may be a little bit taken aback. But we felt like this wasn't anything that was not done before. So I addressed first the cover, is because that's just an angle. So they had earned their way, if you will, onto the cover.
Agreed.
Performance, trash talk, etc. So the second part goes to the use of Silverback Jack and the imagery of Mark Henry. So in the reply to IWA, and I'm asking them to post this podcast and this message, if they would like, on the board. If they check out Mark Henry's Wikipedia profile and go to the nicknames Mark Henry has gone by in his career, you'll notice the Silverback is among them. Now, if that offends some person, we're sorry, but, the IWA is full of names that we can view as controversial or playing up stereotypes. Now, personally, in this situation, I feel this person is either trolling for attention to give us grief, which is not uncommon, or they've simply, I would say, they've marked out for a controversial, heated storyline, which is kind of cool. Because when I first told Rich about it, he was like, that's awesome. Because it's sort of like if I wrote a trash talk and people lost their minds. Oh, wait, that has happened. All right, we'll back up, though. So the thing is, if you're really concerned about controversial names in the IWA, there are a lot of them out there that are controversial. Whether they make personal attacks, racial attacks, stereotypes, etc. And the way we look at it is that in the IWAR leagues, we encourage creativity. We can't speak to every league, obviously, but in our leagues, we have all kinds of players in different ethnic backgrounds, social, economic, religious backgrounds, and we try to give everyone a voice. So their creativity is encouraged, and I would say in this point, and the person that was disheartened or whatever it was, disgruntlement, noted, but get over it. Really find better things to sink your time into. If you really want to go this route, I would invite you to check out every single league and every single wrestler name. There are so many names that are worse than the ones you just saw. And, again, this is based off an angle. I think you're buying a little bit too much into it.
I mean, some of the things I want to bring up in that letter, that person referred to the handler of these wrestlers of being white, would not actually knowing that they were white. They could have been African American, they could have been Hispanic, or what have you. So I think that's kind of strange, unless they know them personally. So
Sure.
I would think that would be a personal attack, or someone trolling for attention. So I don't know what the demographics are for the IWA, but from the people I know and the people that I've met and I've talked to, it's a very diverse background. We have people from all ethnicities. We have people from all religious backgrounds, socioeconomic, politics, all with a love of professional wrestling. So I don't understand exactly where the outrage comes from. Myself, being a minority and someone who has a mixed ethnic background, in no way do I find this cover offensive. I think, if you read Dynamite and you read what's going on with the Angle and then have just a passing knowledge of wrestling history and what goes on in professional wrestling, this is pretty tame considered some of the things that happened in the past in the world of professional wrestling. I think it comes across kind of bad, to be completely honest, because I have Luther Alexander, who is a Russian wrestler. Does that mean as a Hispanic American that I can't write for a Russian character?
Nope.
Matt, you write for Senior Lucha. Am I offended that you write for Senior Lucha? Absolutely not.
See.
So I don't know where this is coming from. I don't even understand the outrage on this. I think it's fine. I think it's a good cover. I think the angle was played out great. And anyone that wants to check it out, spend $1, buy the CWL bulletin, and check out Dynamite, because there's a lot of fantastic stuff going on over there.
Damn right.
Anything else you want to talk about in terms of the controversy?
I would just say that there's all sorts of things in wrestling when it comes to the motivational factors behind attacks. And in this game, there have been many times over the years people have used the game to make personal attacks on others through their trash talk, through wrestlers' names, through the wrestlers' finishers. And I just think that what happens is if the IWA was going to do something about this, that would have been a long time ago. That ship has sailed. I get that someone first look at this might go, oh, what the hell? But I think once you understand it, I'll give you a good example. Recently, Blake Lively, the actress, was out at an event, and they took pictures of her, and she posted a pair of the pictures that showed her side shot and front shot, and she wrote, LA face with the Oakland booty. And people started losing their goddamn minds over it. Now, anyone who grew up in the 80s and 90s, or frankly the last 20 years, as a music fan, particularly of Sir Mix-a-Lot, knows those are lyrics from the song Baby Got Back, which is about a woman with a large ass. It wasn't a racial thing, and it was, oh, it's white privilege. No, she just quoted lyrics because she's got a big booty, which anyone who's been to any functional area with a dance that's played Baby Got Back, every white girl or other girl jumps on stage, starts dancing. It's just how it is. And there was this trumped up imaginary outrage over it. Oh my God, how could she say this? This is insensitive. And it's like, it's a song lyric. Get a hold of yourself. Really? This is what you want to get pissed about? There's other shit to get worried about.
If this angle was, race baiting, or making the characters themselves be a negative stereotype, but then I can see where there's an issue with that. But none of that's going on.
Right. I also think, and this is the last one before we move on from this, I guess the last point I'll make. A lot of people use these names to get attention. They use them to get a laugh. Like Fatty the Butcher was kind of a gag name I threw together. Does that mean I think obese people should be wielding forks and bloodying people up? Maybe, but that's not the only thing. It's like that's the least of the problems. I think what people do though is they use certain names like, I don't want to throw any people under the bus, so to speak, but there's certain names out there that are one-trick ponies. There's a name you see and you go, oh, okay, or maybe you go, that's ridiculous. Turn the page. In this case, Black Wrestlers Matter not only used names that were out there, he had anyways, but he used a gimmick that went beyond just the headline, which is to say he played off of it. And the other players played off of it as well. I think if he was just out there and trying to race bait, and I saw this once in the BRL back in, I want to say it was like 95, 96, where you had Rashizi and his stable, and they were basically fighting a clan group. There's Blitzkrieg Viper, and I can't think of the guy's name, but essentially Nazis, you know? And that's the way they played it off each other, you know? I just think in this game where so many people want to, you know, have a good time, have fun, this is the least of your worries. So we wanted to address it and get it out there because we really feel it's not a big deal and that, you know, it's better to address it than ignore it. We just wanted to kill it off now, snuff it out. There it is.
Fantastic. I think I couldn't have said it better myself, so we'll move on from this topic. Now, Matt, I know you got some questions for our Q&A sessions.
Yes.
What are some of the questions?
People have been writing in some questions, and we encourage the listeners to email us your questions because we will answer them. We're going to save them up and do a Q&A show. I'm like, let's do them as we go along because every show is going to have its own topic anyways. So we can kind of add them at the end of the show. Now, there's lots of things you can talk about in this game as far as, you know, hot topic. So, for example, if you have a question about the handbook or if you have a question about, you know, payment methods, there's certain things that, you know, might help you along. For example, some people will say, well, what if I have to send a check and I don't want to send a check, you know, every month or use a credit card. I know players that pay like $100 every few months. They send a $100 check and they just use it as a credit account, if you will, and they just keep track of how much money they have left in their account. And the IWA will let them know, like, oh, you're down to like $2.
Yeah.
And it's a good way to kind of, you know, do it that way because if you're playing by mail, especially, you know, you're not sitting there hoping the check clears and worrying about things.
Right. And, you know, playing by mail in general, you lose that kind of extra week that you get when you email your stuff in and pay by credit card.
Sure. Which, by the way, if you're not aware of that, you can email the IWA your information, you know, including your matches, your strategies, your trash talks. Save them as a PDF, or if you have to, send them an email with the trash talk typed out, and they'll put it in for you. And it's just an extra way to save some time. You know, it's important to know that, you know, if you're crunched for time and you go, I couldn't mail it in time because of whatever happened, you can email it to them. And I would recommend having a credit balance, even if it's $10, because all you need is $5 for a league to process. That's a minimum payment you can go to play the game. So if you have that $5 sitting there, you're going to give yourself a safety catch, if you will.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And for, you know, those of us who produce a lot of content, you know, that extra week is a lifesaver.
Let's see here. A question was about, for NWL players, could we explain how managers move from the NWL to a new league? I've had to explain to a couple of players, and they weren't really clear of the handbook. So the way the NWL works is you have 17 cycles, so essentially 1 year in the league, and it gives you a chance to learn the game in a safe environment without competing against veterans that would crush you.
Yeah.
What we do is give you that 17 cycles to kind of learn how to play, and then once you're ready to move on, you've not only learned how to play, you've established your character, you've got an idea of how you want to play. Now, some players, just so you know, you don't have to wait the 17 cycles. If you're playing and you're like, you know what, I'm good with this, I want to move on, you can. But I would say from experience, most players wish they could have stayed longer.
Yeah, a lot of people who have left early have not done well. So I recommend staying the full 17 cycles.
And a fun fact, the most points scored in 17 cycles, 150 points earned. A record held by Jack Havoc and Crimson Grim. Fun fact. But you have 17 cycles to, you know, do as well as you can, learn the game, and have a fun time. You know, have some feuds. And what's funny is, like, you have things that started the NWL that carry on years later. You know, the Koenig, Great David, Rude Duty feuds are still kind of going on nowadays. And in those 17 cycles, once your time is up, when you're going to go to a new league, what I would do is around the 12th cycle of your time there, so after about, I'd say, 9 months, start looking around. Check, you know, take 1 month and spend $3 and check out 3 leagues you're interested in. So it just costs $1 to get a copy of an IWA bulletin. And some bulletins, just be aware, will come and it'll be like paper thin. You're like, oh, look at this. Other ones come in, it's like a book.
Yeah.
But it's better to scout in advance and know where you're going. Also, email the commissioners. talk to the players that are there now. If you're on Facebook, check out the message boards that we have set up there, the pages, talk to some of the players. Most people are very friendly, very helpful, and happy to help you, get into the game and enjoy. Once you identify the league you want to go to, you can transfer to any league for free, except for the LWL. Or I'm sorry, some leagues have limits on new players coming in, but for the most part, you can transfer to just about every league you want. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a league within the IWAR network. So that's important to have too.
Yeah. There's so many good leagues out there. We don't want to confine you just to the IWAR leagues, go out there, explore. If you don't like those leagues, you can always come on back.
Right. That's the thing too. Don't be afraid to travel around a bit. Check out the game. And I highly recommend, spend $5, check out 5 leagues and leagues outside the Gold Federation. Check out the XPL, check out the NBL, check out the NAL, the CCL, whatever league, might be looking on the front page of the IWA report and saying, hey, check this out, give them a try. Again, email the commissioner. You want to play in a league that you'll enjoy the game the most. If you enjoy, the style of play in the IWAR, you might want to stay in the IWAR. If you prefer just to be able to send your stuff in and not worry about it, there's other leagues out there you can do that.
Yeah. You can always contact me. I'm always available. I'll give you my opinions on the different leagues and give you my take on them, and then you can make a decision on your own. Are there any other questions?
Yes. Let's see here. Do players know they can write their TT on a sheet of paper and mail it to IWA and they will type it out for them? Probably not. We talked about emailing Trash Talk before. Again, if you email, it's easier if it's PDF'd or sent in chunks so they can do it, put together for you. You want to make sure when you send in your stuff, it's legible, and obviously, there's no cursing and swearing in it.
Yes.
They will block it off. And, it's important to know, too, that your Trash Talk, when you send it in, if you don't get a response the way you're hoping, keep trying. Call out other wrestlers. Usually it's best to trash talk with wrestlers who are also trash talking.
Yeah.
Whether it's a challenge or what have you. So that's the trash talk advice I would give as far as sending it out. I would say as far as trash talk itself, a long time ago I put a post on a message board where I said there's 2 types of players in this game. There are players who play for the creativity, the fun of the storyline and angle, and those who play to see their name in the IWA report. And it's just, there's 2 different types. Either one's fine. If that's what your thing is, go ahead and do it. But when it comes to playing a more advanced style and trash talking beyond your mama jokes and actually having angles and twists and turns, and we're fans of wrestling at some point, most of us.
I would hope so. Jeez.
Well, I say that only because I know players that are not fans of wrestling really at all anymore, and it's like, but you're still playing the IWA. That's their thing, though. I'll give you an example. There's some players that can step up their game, and the thing was, just because a player has, an absurd angle doesn't mean you can't play off it. I'll give you a perfect example. There's a player named Matt Unick, and he had has a stable called the Kardashians, and he always played as if he was managing the Kardashians, and I always kind of was like rolling my eyes at it, like, oh my god, that's stupid as hell. Having imagined Kim Kardashian wrestling, John Cena just does not do it for me. So when he came to the BRL, I had this idea, because I'm a fan of lucha wrestling from Mexico, and they have a lot of the cross-dressing tranny wrestlers, if you will.
Yep.
And they're not only hysterical, but they're good. So it hit me like, what if this guy, his stable were all wrestlers that were just cross-dressing, and they were out of their minds? I thought that made that angle so much better. Because to imagine that someone is angry that you're calling him, quote, Kim Kardashian instead of actually Kim Kardashian. No, I am Kim Kardashian. You have some stubble. Listen, it makes it funnier to have them outraged. And picturing, instead of picturing okay, it's the baby wrestling. It's a giant dude in a diaper and a bonnet that's wrestling and thinks he's the baby. That's kind of funny. I just like that way. And what it is you don't always have to have the perfect feud. But you have a rivalry, you can play off it and be creative. It's a way to work around it. So don't be afraid to try something new and lean into your discomfort, as they say in the training world, and give it a go. Because, he came, Matt brought these stable into the BRL, and we're playing off it and they're having fun with it. And that's what it's about. It's that, you're not going to have this all-consuming great feud every single time, but you can have fun with it, and you never know what's going to happen if you just give it a try.
Agreed.
I just love Kim Kardashian. The last thing here is a thing about asking about strategies and frustration.
Okay.
So I will just say this. Speaking as a cycle that just went through, and we'll do a cycle review in our next episode. This is just about the controversy and all that stuff. But when it comes to the holes in the game, this past cycle, the champion from the NWL had a 501 strategy. Now, a 501 is the highest score you can get as a singles wrestler. But also, there was a 500 out of the BRL by a former NWL wrestler, and several 498s. So, for us, as the TUBECAST guys and the commissioners, we love to see this. We love seeing you guys do well. And in this most recent issue of the IWAR, we also have the How to Win the IWA sheet in there included, because we wanted you to see, physically have it in your hands. When it comes to the game itself, there are times when the holes will go all over the place, and that happens. Like, I have an example. I had Victor Von Schnapp take the CWL title with a 498. I totally nailed the 2 front drops. So I guessed which holds are going to drop 25 and then did not use them, which is a big part of the game. But on the back end, the lower 5 holds, the 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 holds, not so well. So, all it takes is one hold here or there, and you can be champion. I'm really hoping that when the IWA report comes out, we're going to have Big Blank #1 as the world champion, or IWA champion. That would be kind of damn cool. But if you have questions about the holds, please, please, please post on the Facebook page. Email us directly. We're happy to help. Don't get too disheartened. I know it can be difficult at times, but there are ways to improve.
Agreed. I think that's the big thing about having your angles and your trash talk and your storylines, because when you have a bad cycle in terms of strategies, you have that to fall back on. Fortune or Fired pay-per-view. And we'll talk about that for a second in the IWL. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you the newest pay-per-view, Fortune or Fired. Like Soul Survivor, the main event and the pay-per-view share the same name. But this time, you will need to think long and hard about entering, as someone's career could be changed forever. If you would like to enter, hear how everything works. Before Cycle 56, you need to announce in the comments of the report or on the message board or in an email to me, that being James Ross, that you would like to enter. Once I hear from you, you are in. In the Cycle 56 report, I will put everyone into groups. Let's say 32 people sign up. I will announce the 8 groups of 4. You will face those people and those people only in the Battle Royal in Cycle 57. This is important. You must enter your wrestler in the Cycle 57 Battle Royal. The wrestler in each of their 8 groups that finishes the highest in the Battle Royal moves on to the Fortune or Fired main event at the Fortune or Fired pay-per-view. Should you finish in your group and move on to the main event, here's what you can expect. The Fortune or Fired pay-per-view will take place in Cycle 59. Again, you must enter your wrestler into the Battle Royal. This will be an 8-man ladder match using the Battle Royal to determine the outcome. Above the ring will be 4 briefcases. In one of the briefcases will be a contract for the IWL heavyweight title match at Soul Survivor. And a second is a contract for the American Territory match at Soul Survivor. And the third briefcase is a contract for the IWL heavyweight tag team title match at Soul Survivor. And a fourth briefcase, a termination letter. If your wrestler gets that briefcase, he will be fired from the IWL. This is why you must really think about entering into this contest. Here is how I'm going to determine the winners and the losers. The wrestler of the 8 in the match that finishes the highest in the Battle Royal wins the briefcase with the IWL heavyweight title contract. The second highest wins the American Territories contract. The third highest wins the IWL heavyweight tag team title contract. The wrestler that finishes last of the 8 gets the briefcase with the pink slip. The wrestler will be fired and will have one cycle to say his goodbyes, and then is gone forever from the IWL. So that is the Fortune or Fired pay-per-view for the IWL. So Matt, tell me about this concept. Do you like this concept?
I do. It's very much like the TNA Impact Wrestling promotion where they had that 4 suitcases on a pole. I think it'll be interesting, to see what happens, because it's for title shots, and it could be a way to move somebody out of the league or bring somebody in.
I think it's going to be fantastic. I know this idea's been in the works for quite a while, and it's glad to see that it's finally fully realized. I think it's going to be a fun time. And you can count Luther Alexander as the first person to enter this Fortune or Fired pay-per-view match. So as we wrap up this episode of the TUBECAST, anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we pretty much covered it all right now. So
fantastic. So guys, I will see you next time on the IWAR Network TUBECAST.